He once said, "We're here for a good time, not a long time." He meant it as a laugh, a throwaway line from a man who lived louder than most. But when you know how his story ends, with a helicopter tearing into a Scottish woodland at 172 miles per hour, 150 yards from his own front door, those words hit very differently. This is the story of Colin McRae, the most beloved rally driver who ever lived, a man whose genius behind the wheel was matched only by his refusal to slow down off it, and a story that asks one uncomfortable question: was the thing that made him extraordinary the same thing that got him killed? Buckle up, because this story gets heavy fast. Colin McRae didn't choose rally driving. Rally driving chose him through blood. His father, Jimmy McRae, was a 5-time British rally champion. Growing up in Lanark, Scotland, the sport wasn't a hobby in that house. It was the air they breathed. Colin started on scrambler bikes at 7 years old and took his first rally stage at just 17. But if you think that background made things easier for him, think again. When your father is royalty, you don't get celebrated for following in his footsteps. You get compared. Every stage time, every podium, every championship. Colin McRae spent his entire early career being told he was good for the son of Jimmy McRae. That particular fuel doesn't produce calm, methodical drivers. It produces men who push harder than makes sense, men who go flat out when doubt creeps in, and that's exactly what it produced. His younger brother, Alistair, followed the same path, eventually competing against Colin in the WRC. There were 3 McRaes out there on rally stages. Only one of them was going to escape the comparison permanently. Before any of that happened, Colin McRae's father made him do something that would horrify any future world champion. He made him get a trade, a real one. He trained as a heating engineer and qualified before Motorsport paid him a single pound. If the rally car dream hadn't worked out, he'd have been fixing your boiler in Lanark. McRae spoke about money the way someone self-made does, with genuine surprise that anyone was paying him at all. He said he earned what he earned because someone thought it was worth their while to pay it, and if they didn't, they'd stop. There was no entitlement, no fragility, no fear of falling from a pedestal he'd always stood on. He clawed his way up from a Vauxhall Nova, then a Ford Sierra Cosworth, then finally caught the eye of the Subaru factory team. By 1995, he was world champion. At 27 years and 109 days old, he became the youngest WRC world champion in history, a record that stood for nearly 3 decades. The first Brit ever to hold the title. The plumber from Lanark had done it. Jimmy McRae's shadow finally lifted. Here's what separated Colin McRae from every other driver of his era. It wasn't his pace, though his pace was extraordinary. It was the way he found it. While other champions built their speed through discipline and calculation, McRae built it through commitment, total, borderline terrifying commitment. On stages, spectators didn't just watch McRae, they braced. The words "Colin's coming" on a rally stage meant one thing: people took a step back just in case. He attacked blind crests without lifting. He put cars sideways at speeds where most drivers would be praying. He had an instinct for the limits of a car that bordered on supernatural, combined with an absolute refusal to respect those limits. His co-driver, Nicky Grist, who sat beside him for years and knew McRae better than almost anyone, described what made him both brilliant and terrifying. McRae's notes were built around what he could see, where other drivers relied on detailed instructions to navigate in fog or darkness. McRae would listen to the notes, look at what he could make out ahead, and then let pure ability take over. When conditions stripped visibility away, fog rolling in on a Welsh mountain, rain obscuring a hardpan, it took away one of his tools, but never his instinct. He didn't have a driving style so much as a philosophy, and that philosophy had one rule: if in doubt, flat out. Colin McRae won the World Rally Championship once, one title, and if you follow rallying, that number feels like a crime against history. He came agonizingly close to the title 4 times. Twice he finished runner-up to Tommy Mäkinen, once to Richard Burns. Each time, the story wasn't simply that the other driver was better. Each time, something went wrong at the worst possible moment. The 2001 season is the one that haunts people. McRae and Grist fought back from 3 consecutive retirements at the start of the year. clawed their way into championship contention, and arrived at the final round, Rally GB, their home event, with the title within reach. The crowd was enormous. The noise was something McRae described as almost physical. He later said he'd had no doubt in his mind that they were going to win. They dominated the opening stages. Then on the final morning, in the lead of both the rally and the championship, the fly-by-wire throttle on the Ford Focus simply stopped working. The car sat on the apex of a hard pan, perfectly functional in every other way, going nowhere. And then Grist watched through the windshield as Tommy Mäkinen drove past him, took the corner, and accelerated into the lead. 25 wins in the WRC across his career, 6 in the all-time rankings, 1 world title, a career's worth of moments that made people feel like they were watching something outside the laws of physics. Ask any rally historian about Colin McRae in Africa, and they'll get a look on their face. McRae won the Safari Rally, Kenya's legendary event, run across brutal terrain that tears cars apart and humbles champions. He won it 3 times. It was the race nobody expected him to win even once. His reputation for flamboyance was seen as a weakness against the Safari's brutal, survival-focused demands. He didn't just win it, he reinvented what winning it could look like. And then there's the 1997 Safari story, the one Nicky Grist tells with a combination of horror and laughter. They were leading overnight. The second day began before dawn. Their new fitness coach had pushed hydration hard. Fluids in before the stage, fluids in during service. Deep into a 100-mile stretch their team had nicknamed the Road to Hell, running flat out on rough terrain at around 100 miles per hour. Colin McRae leaned across to his co-driver and announced he needed to stop. There was no stopping. They were on the clock. The stage didn't allow for it. What happened next was Colin McRae in his purest form. He told Grist to take the wheel. He jammed his foot down on the throttle, undid his harness, turned sideways in his seat, and opened the door at 100 miles per hour. Grist, left hand on the wheel, calling nothing, passing donkeys on the roadside, watching the asphalt run out ahead and a series of potholes approaching, screaming internally. At the last possible second, McRae dropped back into the seat, grabbed the wheel, and went broadside through a village to the stage end. They won that stage by 3 minutes, the rally by 7. For years, the McRae vs. Burns rivalry was sold as something nasty. 2 Brits, 1 title, and a hatred between them that went all the way down. The press loved it. McRae was the wild Scot. Burns was the cold Englishman, the flamboyant versus the calculated. The papers ran with it. The truth was more interesting. Grist, who sat in the middle of it all, literally a Welshman co-driving for the Englishman after years with the Scotsman, said McRae played the press like an instrument, dropping the occasional controversy because it was funny to him.